Have Ferrari converted their front row lockout in the race? Did Lewis Hamilton salvage any points today after a very horrifying qualifying that he had on Saturday? And how many collisions took place this year? Also, how did Red Bull fare against Ferrari and Mercedes on the streets of Monaco? This is the Monaco Grand Prix race review.
Just me and my guitar.
First, let us take a quick peek at the final classifications of the Monaco Grand Prix. The race was won by Sebastian Vettel in Ferrari, and it was followed by his teammate Kimi Raikkonen. So it was a Ferrari 1-2, a very good weekend for Ferrari. Third was Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull, so he jumped Bottas and Bottas finished fourth with his Mercedes. Fifth was Daniel Ricciardo's teammate Max Verstappen. Sixth was Carlos Sainz. Seventh was Lewis Hamilton, who did a bit of damage limitation this weekend. And eighth was Romain Grosjean in the Haas. Ninth, Felipe Massa, and it was a Williams. I was quite surprised that the Williams finished in the points. And 10th was Kevin Magnussen, so a double points finish for Haas this time and no points finish for Force India. 11th was the Renault of Julian Palmer, and that was a good boost. I think he can take to Canada and possibly score some points next race weekend. 12th and 13th were the Force Indias of Ocon and Perez. They had a lot of issues and a lot of pit stop issues, as well as puncture issues and collisions. Pretty clumsy, I can say, for Force India. So that were the final classifications of the race. Now let us look at some people who got disqualified, or rather did not finish the race. So Nico Hülkenberg was the first car to be knocked out of the race. That was because of a terminal oil leak, I think, in the gearbox, so hampering his race, and he couldn't finish the race. That was on lap 15, and it was a pretty quiet first stint of the whole race. So first part of the race was quiet and not a lot of excitement. It was just controlling the race, and everything was going on pretty smoothly. Then the second part of the race, it was a very big collision. Jenson Button collided with Pascal Wehrlein in Sauber at Portier. So while going through the right-hander into the tunnel section, Jenson Button tried to dive down the inside. So actually Pascal Wehrlein's car actually got flipped, I think, and it went straight into the barrier, and he was kind of trapped between the barrier and the car, Pascal Wehrlein. So he was trying to get out frantically. Good news is both of them are safe, especially Pascal Wehrlein. So what is going to happen is he's going to go for a scan. So because I think it might have aggravated, and that's what Sauber are thinking as well. So it might have aggravated his neck injury that he had in pre-season testing. So they're trying to do precautionary scans, and hopefully he's fine. Jenson Button, because of that accident, had got front left suspension failure, and he had to stop the car at the end of the Nouvelle chicane. And then after that, it was Marcus Ericsson, and it was a very unusual one. So what happened was, after that crash on lap 57, there was a safety car that was deployed, and it's pretty natural. So because of that safety car, all the cars have actually slowed down, and the tire temperature as well as brakes temperatures have gone pretty down. And now when the lap cars were allowed to pass through the safety car, it was Ericsson who tried to go around the safety car at turn 1, Saint-Devote. So not a lot of heat in his tires as well as his brakes caused collision at Saint-Devote. He just went into the barrier, and it was quite a strange collision that he had. And it was Stoffel Vandoorne, a pretty after the restart, very similar to Marcus Ericsson just after the restart, going into Saint-Devote, and it was Stoffel Vandoorne just going into the barrier because of same reason, that is low temperatures in the tires as well as brakes. Now looking at lap 71, Lance Stroll, he was complaining throughout the safety car section that he had very high temperatures in his brakes. So he was trying to manage the temperatures in his brakes, and his team Williams were trying to say that do not use brakes, but obviously in a street race you need to use brakes. So it was a pretty strange situation, and finally he had to retire. Also, another retirement, final retirement on lap 71 was Daniel Kvyat. He just went straight. He was actually collided with Sergio Perez. So Sergio Perez trying to go on the inside and having a lunge down at Rascas, I think. So not a pretty sight, and it was a pretty pretty critical damage that Daniel Kvyat's car sustained, so he had to retire the car. And those were the retirements as well. So now let's look at the highlights of the race. Now looking at the highlights, the first thing always I talk about is the start. So the start was pretty critical for one man who was really in a title contention. So Lewis Hamilton down in 14th position. It was a very important start, but nothing. He could not do much. Basically, he just overtook one car, and that was Stoffel Vandoorne in P13. So it went quite safely, and actually all the cars went pretty safe through the Saint Devote corner, and this is actually a very unusual situation where you don't see a crash at Monaco turn 1. So pretty good driving by all the drivers, professionalism showed, and very good getaway by all the cars. So Ferraris, they were pretty on top, and Raikkonen got a breakaway. He was trying to break away from Vettel. So it was quite helping as well for Vettel, because he didn't need to be in the dirty air of Raikkonen. So he was maintaining a gap of about 2 to 3 seconds. That was pretty safe for him. So he was pumping in good laps, as well as Raikkonen. Raikkonen looked very strong at the starting phase of the race, and I don't know how. And this is a totally different Raikkonen that we see in all the race weekends. So now Bottas was in third position, and Verstappen was in fourth, and Ricciardo was in fifth. Button and Wehrlein, strangely, they pit on lap 1, trying to do a no stop effectively, but it was not to be. They had to come back again. So interestingly, both of these cars collided at Portier, as I told you before. So they tried a different strategy to get free air, so free space on the racetrack to pump in some good lap times, but it was not to be. It was just a catch-up game for them both. Now Hamilton was able to overtake only one car, as I told you. Magnussen gained 2 positions on the starting lap, as well as Kvyat losing 2 positions on the same lap. So Kvyat was the loser of all, and I think Magnussen, you can say, was the winner on this on the start of the race. Now Raikkonen was going pretty quick, and he was maintaining a gap, as I told you, to Sebastian Vettel. This was the time where it was pretty quiet in the race, and as I told you, it was a very un-Monaco-like first session of the race, or what do you say, the first half of the race. So Ferraris were trying to exchange fastest laps with each other, and Verstappen trying to put pressure on Bottas, and I must say Ferraris have actually had actually made a good gap to Bottas. So it was looking like Ferrari were the team to beat on Monaco, and Mercedes didn't look good at all. So it was actually strange that Red Bull was very good. It was not strange actually. They have a really good history here, and good downforce, as you know, Red Bull shows every year. So they were really putting pressure on Bottas for the third position. Now what happened was Red Bull tried to do an undercut on Bottas, so they got Verstappen in pretty quickly, and after that, the next lap, I think Mercedes thought that it was very difficult to get 1 and 2, so just save the 3 at least. So they tried to cut off Verstappen with the next lap in, so Bottas went into the pits this next lap itself. They reacted to Red Bull's pit stop, and he came out just in front of Verstappen. So it was a very good outlap, no problem with that, but still just in front of the of Verstappen's car. He came out of the pits, Bottas. So after this, Bottas and Verstappen got stuck behind traffic a bit, and that actually helped Daniel Ricciardo. He started pumping in very good times, and it was pretty good that he came into the pits. After that, while coming out, he was in third position, so he had jumped his teammate as well as the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas. So Red Bull had done their work, but it was not a good thing for Verstappen. So Verstappen was pretty upset with the whole situation. He shouted on the radio basically. He was not happy at all with that, seeing his teammate going in front of the person he's fighting against as well as in front of him. So what a good jump that was from Daniel Ricciardo. After that, it was pretty good. He was just controlling the race from there. He was just in third position. Interestingly, it was Raikkonen who came into the pits first. So we thought, actually everyone thought there was an undercut possibility at Monaco, but I knew that overcut is a pretty good option, because you know where to come out and how much fast you need to go every lap to get a gap from the person behind you. So the overcut did work. It was overcut OP situation. So pretty good for Sebastian Vettel, because he stayed out for about 4 to 5 laps and pumped in very good times. This was the same time where Daniel Ricciardo tried to put very good fast laps. So it was Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo, both of them ex-teammates, trying to exchange fastest laps with each other. So they were putting very good fast laps in, and as you expect, after 4 to 5 laps when Vettel came out of the pits, it was a Ferrari 1-2, but they have swapped with each other. So Sebastian Vettel was first and Kimi Raikkonen was second. And after that, you would see that Vettel was just with the fresher tires, he was just blasting away into the front. And it was Kimi Raikkonen, I think he was low on morale or something, just couldn't get the fast laps in. It was about 10 seconds of a gap that Sebastian Vettel extended to his teammate. Then Daniel Ricciardo also trying to add pressure onto Kimi Raikkonen. So he was pretty fast, and he was putting a little bit of pressure on Kimi Raikkonen. It was about 1.5 to 2 seconds ish in just behind Kimi Raikkonen. So on Monaco it's pretty good, but as you know, it is very difficult to overtake, and Kimi Raikkonen kept his cool. The Iceman kept his cool, and he held on to the second position. Now what happened was lap 57, it was the a big crash, as I had described before, at Portier. So they had a safety car, and all the gaps were neutralized. We had a lot of crashes here, and also there was a very strange thing happening at turn 1. I think one of the manhole covers was actually cutting through the tires. So Ocon, as well as I think one of the Haas guys, or maybe Williams, Williams and Ocon as well, both of them had suffered punches, rear left punches, while going to the right at Saint-Devote turn 1. The manhole cover, it was not good, and the added pressure, I think, of the added downforce onto these cars, it actually aggravated the whole situation. But it was quite safe. I think the drivers and the engineers identified the situation pretty well and handled that turn pretty well throughout the race after that. So it was a pretty good race, as one would say. Ferrari finally winning it at Monaco after 16 years. It was last time they won, it was 2001, and a Ferrari 1-2. They converted it finally. It was the second Ferrari 1-2, the front row lockout. Last one was in Russia. They could not convert it at all. This time they have converted it, and what a race that was for Ferrari. They have now taken the lead in the Constructors' Championship, and also Vettel has made a really good gap, and he's extended his championship advantage to a very big margin now, thanks to Lewis Hamilton's qualifying effort on Saturday. So, or rather, it was not an effort. Basically, it was a bad situation bad space that he ended up in. So it was a very mixed bag racing. So first half pretty quiet, second half pretty exciting. So that is how we finished the race. It was Lewis Hamilton finally taking out a few points so that he could do a little bit of damage limitation, but not good enough, as it was his championship rival Sebastian Vettel who took the race win. So if you like the video, please do like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comment about your views of the race, and if I've missed anything, I might have. See you later. Bye.